Are you going to mute us?
I am. I'm going to mute you all. Anybody have anything else to say before I mute you?
Have a good day.
I will pause for questions if you have them, so don't hesitate to unmute yourself if you have a question. And if it's in the middle and you have a question, you can always put it in the chat because Nikki's going to be monitoring that and she can get those to me. She's going to unmute herself once I mute everybody. Okay, I think I've got everybody muted and we are recording. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. You can all see my Zipforms screen here. Awesome. Nikki, I'm going to look for you. You're the one person I can see. So if you can just be the one to give me a heads up. All right. Let's see here. One more screen change for myself. Didn't mean to go into that transaction. Disregard. Okay. This is Zipforms Basics. So I am going to walk you through creating a purchase transaction, a listing transaction. I'm going to show you the eSign feature for those of you that have a Docusign account. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about templates. So to get started, I am logged into Zipforms. I'm on my home screen. So when I log in, it automatically takes me to the transactions tab. So you'll see in the dark blue toolbar at the top, all these tabs. The one that's lit up in green is transactions, and that's where I land when I log in. Right below that, you'll see this welcome to Zipforms, go to the Learning Center or no thanks. This is an awesome resource. They have all kinds of videos here. If you're sick of my voice or maybe there's specific little pieces that you've missed that you want to see, you can go ahead and go to that Learning Center and it will give you all kinds of breakdown of different videos and other learning things that you can look at for this program. So I'm going to click no thanks to make that bar disappear. But here's my dashboard. Hold on one second. An agent's asking me for the link. Nikki, will you send the link to Jeannie McHugh, please?
Yep.
Thanks. Okay. So when I log into Zipforms, let's say I have a new listing and I want to prepare my listing packet for my listing presentation, or I'm going to go list, I know I'm going to list the property. I log into Zipforms, I land on the transactions tab, and I'm always going to click new in this bar. So that plus sign and new. This is going to help me walk through creating a transaction. So the first question it asks me is it a listing or is it a purchase? So I'm going to do a listing. When I click that, it's going to give me another pop-up. And this is kind of like putting the label on a folder. I'm going to name the file. I'm going to give it a little more information so that I can find it in my transactions tab on Zipforms. So you can choose how you name your files. Some people use all the same naming convention. Maybe they use the address and the person's name or just the person's name. Whatever makes sense to you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. So I'm going to name it both the address and my client's name just for my ease of finding it. And then I'm going to scroll down this page and I'm going to select the category, which is residential. And then below that, I'm going to show you how to do a template in the next transaction that I do. But this first one, I'm going to show you how to build it from scratch. So let's say all I did was name that file. Move this bar out of my way, sorry. And then at the bottom, I have this green save button. I'm going to click on save. When you click on save, it's going to automatically open up that transaction. So I'm going to give it a moment and you'll see a new screen will appear. Okay, now if I look up at the top underneath transactions, you'll see I've got this new grayish bar. It's like a dark gray bar. And on the left-hand side, it has the property name and the file name that I gave to this transaction. I land on the summary screen. The summary screen is kind of like a snapshot view of everything that's going on in this single transaction. Now, best practice I'm going to skip right over summary and I'm going to go straight to the documents tab. It's going to make more sense in your workflow. If you skip summary, skip the parties tab and go straight to documents, because any information that I put into the documents is going to automatically fill the screens of parties and summary. Okay, so I'm going to go straight over to documents. And here it only added the documents that, the company says put these in every single file that an agent creates. I didn't choose a template, so no documents pulled in here. So I'm going to build this transaction from scratch. So I open up a transaction and now I need to select the documents that I want for this listing, right? So I'm going to go to this All Forms button in the top right corner. Do you see that blue All Forms? Now, when I clicked on it, it says Form Libraries. So if I click on this drop down, I have a few different libraries of documents here. I'm going to click over to NP Dodge Real Estate, and this is going to take me to all of the NP Dodge documents, right? So at the very top, you'll see the first one says cover sheet. Now, if you're not used to using Zipforms, this one makes no sense to you. You haven't seen it before. Those of you who have used it before, this is a key form. This form you put into every single transaction that you do in Zipforms, whether it's a purchase or a listing. And to do that, all I have to do is single click on that name and it will add it to my transaction. So it's added to my transaction and I know it's in there because it turned blue in the library. You see that? So I'm going to go down the list and pick the other documents that I need for this transaction. So closing sheet, Nebraska. Sorry, all you Iowa agents, I'm so Nebraska focused. I'm going to go ahead and use Nebraska, but you can do the same thing for Iowa. So I'm going to click closing sheet Nebraska. That's what we sometimes call the blue sheet. We turn that in with your transactions to your admin. If I keep going down, listing agreement Nebraska, I'm going to need that. Below that, it says listing agreement addendum number 1. I could put that in my file right now, or I can wait and come back to it, right? So I'm not going to use it right now. I can get it if I need it in the future. I'm going to keep going down. You have all of the files, or the documents that you could need for this file. I'm going to add my affiliated business arrangement, agency, buyer, non-team. Maybe I'll grab that seller property condition disclosure, estimated costs for seller, and so on. So if there are other documents you need, I may not have grabbed all of them, but I just want to show you how you can build a file from scratch, one document at a time. So I went to this library and I picked all the documents I need, but the one document that you didn't see in there that I need is the MLS input sheet, right? So to get to that, I'm going to switch from the NP Dodge library to the Great Plains. It's either there or it's in the residential input form, right? So I'm going to select that one, and I'm just going to switch to these different libraries so that you can see the different ones that you might need. These are all the ones provided by the Omaha Area Board of Realtors, or if you're a Lincoln agent, you've got the Lincoln documents are all in here as well. So that's where you can access the different libraries of documents. I'm going to click X, and it's going to take me back to my transaction. And you can see here that I now have all the documents I selected in that library are now in my folder, right? Now, the most important one that I'm going to open up and show you first is that cover sheet. So I told you if you've not used the program before, this form is new to you. This one is specific to Zipforms, but it's what I call the magic sheet. So it's the one that makes everything speak to each other. So I'm going to single click on it and it will open. And then I'm just going to show you what this looks like a little bit. It asks for listing broker information, property listing information, seller information, it asks for so much, and you're not going to fill all this out, maybe not ever, especially not if you're just doing the listing. You won't have all this information, but I just want to show you what this looks like. Now I am going to go up here and I'm going to start filling out a little bit of this because I want to show you the main concept of zip forms is that when I type information into one of these documents, it is going to transpose onto all the other documents within this one transaction. So I'm going to do a little bit, bear with me as I type a little bit. And when I spell things wrong, just look away. Thanks, Nikki.
You're welcome. You're funny.
All right, I promise I'm not going to do everything. All right. Okay, so then I can come down and I can start filling out property information right here within this cover sheet if I want to. Like for instance, if I put in here 1234 Main Street, I know that anything I've filled out in this cover sheet is now going to be on every other document within this transaction file. So some agents love the cover sheet, come here, and they fill this out first. Maybe that's not your style. Maybe you've been in the business forever and you're like, I know that listing agreement like the back of my hand, and I want to go straight to that listing agreement and start filling it out there. You can do that. It doesn't matter which document you're typing in. It will share the information from one to the other as long as this cover sheet exists within the file. So I'm going to go ahead and click back to go back to the other documents within this transaction. You'll see it has an awesome autosave feature. See, it says saved. I didn't have to click save in that document. It saved it automatically. So I know I'm still in this transaction file. I have that file name, and then I have the documents tab that I'm in. And if I scroll down, all the documents I selected to be a part of this transaction. And let's just open up another file or another document and see how it shared the information. Single click on listing agreement opens it up. What do you see there? The property address that I typed in the cover sheet now exists within the listing agreement. But like I said, if you are so comfortable with this listing agreement and you want to start here, you can absolutely do that. So if I come in here and say lot 12, block 15, yada, 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 for my listing or my legal, and then I come in and finish this address, oops, did I finish that? And then I can start filling the rest of this out if I want to, but I'm just going to show you how the additional information I just put into this listing agreement is now going to be on every other document within this file. So I'm again going to click back in the top left corner. It's green. It's going to auto save anything that I added. And then let's open that cover sheet again and see how that information is shared. So if I single click on cover sheet, it will open. And then if I scroll down, you'll see now that Omaha, Nebraska 68116 and lot 12, block 15, that all added to this cover sheet. I'm going to click back to get out of the cover sheet. Let's open up another folder or another document, excuse me. Let's open up, which one will share it? There we go. Property address is pulled onto the affiliated business arrangement disclosure. Let's say I'm in here and I say, oh, duh, I didn't put my seller's name. Let's put Sally Seller in there and Sam Seller. Let's put the date of our listing agreement. So now I'm on a different document and I added more information, right? So let's go ahead and click back to get out of this document into the transaction where the rest of the documents are, and open up anything else. So let's open that, let's say the closing sheet. When I'm in here, you can now see, again, all the information that was typed, regardless of which form I was on, shared. Do you guys see that? Sam and Sally pulled in here. My information as the agent pulled in here. If I scroll down further, you can see the property address is on the Dodge Cares form. It just shares with every single document that's within this file. So that's the main concept of Zipforms. Before I move on and show you a little bit more in depth on that, are there any questions about that cover sheet or the information sharing? If you do, feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat for Nikki. Going once. Okay, I'm going to click back to get out of this transaction. Then I'm going to click back to list in the top left corner. This is going to take me back to all my transactions on the transactions tab. So this is just like I just logged into Zipforms. I'm on the transactions tab. Below that, you can see all of my active transactions are here. I wish I actually had this many if I was an agent. These are all my test files here. But picture this like your desktop, and these are all your file folders. These are all your different transactions. So let's do a purchase together. So I have a new buyer. We want to write an offer on a property. Hey, Nikki, can you grab an MLS number for me?
Yep.
Okay. I log into Zipforms. I land on the transactions tab. And just like when I did a listing, I'm going to click new, the plus sign and new. This is going to allow me to create a new transaction, and it's going to walk me through how to do that. So again, first step is new listing or purchase. Well, this time I'm working with a buyer, so I'm going to select new purchase. Then it's going to give me that same pop-up where I'm going to name my transaction or put in the information of the transaction so that I can find it again. I like to say again, like this is a sticky, this is that tab on your folder that has the property information. So when you're looking through your folders, you can determine which one it is. So I'm going to write on 1234 Main Street with Nikki Buyer. And again, you could name it just the buyer's name or just the address. I've heard a good rule of thumb for doing purchases is that you use your client's name instead of the address in case you write multiple offers on different properties. You can just change the property information and not have to totally rename your file or create a whole new file. So next I'm going to go down and I'm going to select the category, which is residential. But there's one more cool feature that you can use when you're writing a purchase agreement. And that is right, it's so small and blue, but can you guys see where it says MLS Connect? I'm kind of circling it. I'm going to click MLS Connect. And what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to put in the MLS number into this field and pull the property information straight from the MLS, which will limit the amount of typing I'll have to do. I'm ready for you if you've got one, Nikki.
22 00 96 72.
Okay, so I put in the MLS number. Next to that, there's a checkbox to include the property photo. I think it just helps me to remember what property we're writing on. It makes my files a little prettier. So I put in the MLS number, including the property photo, and then I'm gonna click find. And this is going to search the MLS for that property. Uh-oh, did this happen last time?
Yeah, it did. I got another one for you.
Okay.
22
Okay.
01 0127.
Uh-oh, what's going on?
That's all right. We'll keep trying. Sorry, guys.
This does not typically happen. If you've experienced this, let me know. We're going to do one more shot here and hopefully pull in the property.
Give me a second, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do you have to put in the dash?
For Iowa?
Well, for that might be the reason it's not going.
Iowa listings have a dash in the MLS number, but Nebraska ones don't.
Oh, sorry.
All right. We got it this time, guys. It's going to happen.
Third time.
22 00 7163. Fingers crossed.
Oh my word. Have anybody else been experiencing this issue? Anyone that's used it before? No?
I use it all the time, but it's Iowa and I've never had a problem.
Interesting.
Yeah, we had not had a problem with this
No, it always works. So of course I'm doing a training and it's not working. Okay, well,
Should the listing number be 2020 instead of 22?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
I think
Rich, do you got something there for us?
he's on mute.
Okay. You want to try one more, Stacy?
Yeah, let's try one more and then I'll move on, but I'll talk through how this works.
I've got a number if you guys want it.
Sure.
Oh, great.
MLS
Yep.
220100180.
Maybe I won't include the property photo. Let's see if it works better. I don't have a good feeling about this.
I think that's circling.
Well, that one worked.
Yay.
Maybe it was something to do with the property photo. So it pulled in the property information.
Or the person that found it. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's
Plain.
probably the person that found it. So as you can see, when I clicked find, it pulled the information from the MLS. That's how it's supposed to work. And typically if you do add photo, the cute little first photo of the house pulls up here. Super helpful, super simple. If you run into any issues, let us know and we'll look into it deeper. Maybe it was just a glitch right this minute. But once I click find, it pulls up the information and here's where I can verify, yes, that is the property that we are going to write the contract on. And then I'm going to click this use listing button. Okay, so I pulled in the information, I selected residential, and now one other piece I'm going to show you that's different than how I built my transaction out last time was where it says select template. I am going to select a company made template. So if I click on my templates, you'll see I have a bunch called personal. I will talk about that at the end of this class briefly, but go down to where it says global. Global means company created. So in here, you will find things such as Global Listing Packet Iowa and Global Listing Packet Nebraska. Now we need to update the year on that. These are up to date, but that is the same as if I grabbed the yellow folder for a listing packet. Now, if I scroll down, I'm doing a purchase, remember, so below that you see Purchase Packet Iowa and Purchase Packet Nebraska. If I click on Global Purchase Packet Nebraska, I'm selecting that template. That is just like grabbing the blue folder from your office. So it's going to give me all the documents that you typically get within that blue folder in a digital format, okay? So I picked that template and then I'm going to click Save at the bottom. It's going to take a moment and it's going to open up that transaction that I just created. Now remember, it always pulls up to that summary screen first. I know I'm in the transaction I created because in this dark gray bar, it has the name of my file, 1234 Main Street, Nikki Buyer, which is what I called it. And then I'm on the summary tab. Now, before I go straight to documents, which remember I said best practice, go straight to documents, it'll fill everything in. What's really nice about that MLS Connect feature is it pulled in all of the MLS information on that property. It includes the MLS number, the street address, city, state, zip, but it also includes legal description. Now remember, you want to check those because that's put in by the admin or the listing agent, and sometimes those can be incorrect. And then you'll also see the listing broker pulled in, or the listing agent. I'm going to skip over parties and onto documents, just like we did in the last one. And here you'll see, instead of having to go to the different libraries to pull the documents one by one that I needed by clicking on them, when I chose that Global Purchase Packet Nebraska or that digital blue folder, they put all of those documents into the file here for me already. So I don't have to go to that library and select these one by one, right? Really great and easy. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to open up the cover sheet with a single click is all you have to do to open it. How much information pulled in from MLS Connect. Look at all that. All that listing broker information, the property listing information. I don't have to go back in and write those. So now I can just go straight down to the selling broker or buyer's agent information and enter my information right here. I'm going to skip over a bunch of this. And then you'll see property purchase information. Now, again, this is a preference thing. If you like to do this, you can come in here and you can start filling out your information for the property purchase information, or go straight to that purchase agreement and start filling it out there, and it will automatically transpose onto this form and every other form within this single transaction. I am going to add a little bit of buyer information. Because I want to show you with this, the Docusign feature. Okay, so I typed some information in. Remember, I can click save at the top if I want to, but otherwise I can just click back in the top left corner and it's going to show me that it saved that information. Autosave feature is super helpful in this program, so that you can forget to click save and it's going to keep everything that you typed. Now I'm going to scroll down and I want to open up that purchase agreement. So single click to open the purchase agreement. If I go to the top, what do you see? Anything that was filled out in any of those other documents or screens automatically transposes onto these fields where it's necessary. Now I could do the same thing here. I could come in here and fill out information, and it's going to take anything that I type in here and put it everywhere else. It's the same concept. So it doesn't matter where you type it, as long as the cover sheet exists within the transaction file, it will share information. Now, if I had built that last transaction by scratch and I went into the libraries and I took my listing agreement, my affiliated arrangement, and my closing sheet and my agency, and I didn't put the cover sheet in there, you'd type in that seller's name or that address and you'd go to the next document and you'd be like, what the heck? It put nothing in there, right? The second you add that cover sheet to your transaction files, it automatically shares the information. So cover sheet is huge, does not replace the closing sheet. It is specific to Zipforms. It's the one that makes everything speak. So I'm just gonna click back to get out of this purchase agreement. I'm gonna scroll down and select, let's say I'm just gonna open up a miscellaneous terms counter. Here you can see it's got all the information, so all I have to do is type in my terms. Let's say at this point I learned the seller's name. I could right here put in Sam seller, Sally seller. I gotta get more creative with my names. And then if I click back to get out of this document, let's say I open up the cover sheet, what did it pull in? Sam and Sally. I'm gonna click back. Now I'm gonna show you on the Documents tab, if I click over to Parties, it's gonna have everybody that I had added into those documents on the Parties screen as well. So you see why I say when you open up that transaction, go straight to Documents, fill out everything there, it fills in every other screen and every other document. Any questions on that? I'm going to show you the e-sign feature for those of you that have a Docusign account, and then I will talk to you about templates. But before I do e-signing, what kind of questions do you have on the concept of Zipforms or the libraries, the different documents? Anything? No, I'm seeing some shaking heads.
I don't see anything.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you, let's pretend that we filled out this whole purchase agreement and all the documents from this transaction that we need signed by Betty and Bob Buyer, right? Or did I do Ben Buyer? Whatever. I need them to sign them, but we're going to do it e-sign or Docusign. If you have a Docusign account and the two accounts are connected, this feature can work seamlessly for you. So I'm going to show you how that works. In this transaction file, in the document screen, I'm going to click e-sign in the top left corner, right underneath that big green back to list button. And then what's really great is it is going to walk me through the process on the top. So it's always going to tell me what my next step is. So click new to send documents for signature. All right, I can do that. So I'm going to click new and plus. And then it pulls up the documents that are part of this specific transaction. So now I can go through and select the documents that I need Betty and Ben to sign. So I need that purchase agreement. I need my agency buyer non-team, my affiliated arrangement, and so on. You could go on and select all the documents you need. I'm just going to select those 3 for the sake of time. And then at the bottom, I'm going to click the close button. What's really nice is, again, in that top bar, it's going to tell me right where I'm at in the process. So first step, it says select your forms. Well, I did that. Here they are. And then in the top right corner, I'm going to click the next button. Do you see that big green next? And then it says, okay, now we need to know who's going to sign. So here is where I can select my signers. It pulls up anyone that I've put into that cover sheet or to that transaction, and their email address is already here. So I can say, I need Ben Buyer and I need Betty Buyer to sign, and then I'm gonna click close. So here again at the top, step 1, select forms. We did that on the last step. So step 2, select the parties. Here they are. I have Ben and Betty. Now, something that I'm going to point out is that we see a signing order here. That means it's going to go to Ben first, and then after Ben signs, it's going to go to Betty. We want to use a signing order when our email addresses are the same. If they have different email addresses, I could uncheck signing order and send it to both of them at the same time so that one doesn't have to wait for the other to sign. So I want to switch this, who's first, who's second, I can do that here. Otherwise, I'm going to click the next button in the top right corner. This is where it's going to seamlessly take me out of Zipforms and directly into Docusign. I don't have to leave one program, save the documents, and pull them in. And then one other awesome feature about Zipforms into Docusign that I love is that you'll see as I scroll down through these documents, they're going to have these tags for initials and signatures auto applied. So I don't have to go in and put the initials and signatures for each person when I do this process from Zipforms to Docusign. I just have to verify that everything looks good. Now, you always have the ability to remove or edit these. Let me get down to, I think it's arbitration. Here we go. So when you get down to paragraph 35, and you'll see the arbitration and mediation, these boxes are not solid, right? One is, they're outlined in blue and yellow. That means they're optional, which means the client can skip over them. If you have had a discussion previously and you want those to be required so they can't skip them, all you have to do to manage the tags is click on them, and you'll get this menu on the side, on the right hand side, and you can click required field and it will turn it to solid. You have the ability to delete the field altogether at the bottom, but you can always come back over here on the left and grab an initial and drop it there, or anywhere else on the documents if you need to add them. So that's how you can manage it, delete it, add your own. But basically all of this tagging of initials and signatures is done for you when you start in Zipforms and go to Docusign. What questions do you have on that?
Here's a quick question from Debbie. How did it know to initial or sign? How does the software know that?
So we have taken the time to take our documents and say in Zipforms, if Ben Buyer is assigned as role buyer in Zipforms, when it gets into Docusign, it knows, we've then said, okay, if there's someone in buyer 1, put an initial or a signature spot in all these places on our documents. So it only works on documents that originate in Zipforms. So if you pull an outside document in, it won't know where to put them. But if the document lives in Zipforms and you send it over, it will automatically apply like this. We've taken the time to do that, to teach it.
Can I follow up with another question, Stacy?
Yeah.
that I was just thinking about. So if you have a document that doesn't originate in Zipforms, let's say I had a PDF that I wanted to go ahead, put into Docusign and send out, can I, on my own, put in initials, signatures, and dates?
Have to. Yep. So if it is a PDF document, or if it originated outside of Zipforms, meaning maybe you got it from another agent, it's an addendum or something like that, or it's an offer, it will then be in PDF form. And when you pull it into your Zipforms file and pull it over to Docusign, you will have to apply those initials and signatures and dates yourself. Yep.
And Dwayne asks, how do we remove the box?
When I click on it, it gives me the menu on the right-hand side. There's a delete button at the bottom.
Okay.
You see it?
No, I've got pictures over there. Just a second.
Yeah, move our faces.
Okay, so, okay, the delete, okay, you highlight it and delete it. Is that
So just click on it and it pulls up the menu, and then you click
Yeah.
delete and it disappears.
Okay, cool. I just, it automatically came up on one of my deals and they signed it. We didn't want to sign it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that's one. So a couple of those. So also on the listing agreement, it's important to pay attention to, like, the home warranty one is also one that shows up as optional. They accept it and they're going to pay for it, or they decline the coverage. Those both pull up as optional. If you've had the discussion previously and you know which one they're going to do, you could remove the ones you don't need and make the ones that you do need to be required versus optional. So that's why I wanted to show you this piece specifically, because that does happen.
Good
What other
question.
questions?
Oh, Debbie, you may need to unmute yourself.
Now, okay, sorry. Has the instructions, the 1, 2, 3 instructions at the top of the page always been there? Was that new?
Nope.
Oh, God.
Since
I'm
I
sorry.
learned the program, that's been there.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's going on these pages. It's easy to miss some of this stuff. So having the refresher course stays great.
Yes, it never, you know, when we first introduced this program, we had so many people come to the class, the basics beginners class, multiple times, because you will pick up something new every time.
Definitely.
Any other questions on the e-sign feature? Okay, I'm not going to send these because for the sake of time, I'd have to go sign them. I was sending them to myself. I'm going to just click close. But if I click send, it would say, thank you for using Docusign. You can now return to Zipforms, and it takes you directly back into Zipforms. But one other awesome feature is when you send documents from Zipforms to Docusign and then out to your clients for signatures, they will automatically be dropped back into your Zipforms file once they're signed. So you don't have to then go add them back to your folder. They will automatically drop back in this transaction file. Any questions on that? I got a puzzled look from one. I can't see everybody, but.
Yes, can you say that again?
Yes. So let's say I sent those documents to Ben and Betty for signatures. Once they've signed them, when I come back into this transaction file, the signed copies will automatically be here. You will see underneath on the right-hand side, you see this folders button. That's like your main folder for all these documents within this transaction. You will see underneath here a new folder that says signature packet signed and then the date. When you click on that, it'll have the signed documents within it. Let me see if I have one I can pull up for you quick. Did I? Just a matter of which ones I actually sent and signed. Let me see if I have one. Nope, not on that one. Sorry, bear with me one moment here. Nope, striking out.
Do you want an MLS number?
No, I'm looking for a file that I've sent out documents and actually signed them and they've come back so I can show what that looks like. Thank you though. And I'm just striking
Good
out.
one, Nikki. Good one. That was a good one.
I know she's trying to be funny and I'm focusing over here. All right, I'm going to try one more. If not, I can send you a screenshot of what that looks like after the class. Nope, not there. Okay. Now, the last thing I like to go over when I am showing Zipforms Basics is how to create your own template. Before I get to that, are there any questions on creating transactions? Pretty simple once you understand the concept, right? That information sharing, you click new, you create the file, you fill out your information, it shares between everything. At that point, you can print the documents, you can email them, or if you have Docusign, you can e-sign. Now, just like I applied that global transaction template, remember I chose that buyer's packet Nebraska, which is like grabbing the blue folder. You have the ability to create your own templates. So that's what I'm going to show you. It's just a time-saving tool where you can create a template. We can even take that blue folder, fill out the information that never changes, like I'm always going to be the buyer's agent when I have that blue folder, and then stick it away in our drawer for later. So that's basically what I'm going to show you. You log into Zipforms, and instead of staying on this transactions tab in the top blue bar, I'm going to go to the tab to the right, which is called templates. So here you can see it looks just like my transactions, but these are my templates. So this is where I manage any templates that I want to use when I'm creating transactions. To create a new template, you're going to click new or the plus button right underneath templates. Now we have to think about what kind of templates are going to be helpful to us in the future. For instance, generally speaking, the most common ones, if you take time to create any templates, would be Stacy's listing packet, or it might be Debbie's listing packet, Rich's listing packet, Stacy's purchase packet. But don't let that limit how narrow you get. So if you want to take the time to create a cash buyer's packet, a conventional buyer's packet, an FHA buyer's packet, VA buyer's packet, listing packet, vacant listing packet, investor packet. If you work with an investor, 1,000,000%, you should create a template for that investor so you don't have to type their information over and over and over. So I'm going to show you how to create a purchase template, Stacy's purchase template, okay? So when I click new, it asks me that same thing it does when I create a transaction. Is this a new listing or a new purchase? So I'm creating a purchase transaction, or excuse me, template, not transaction. Now I'm going to enter the name. I always find it easiest to find in the list of templates if I put my name first. I'm going to put the date because I have a couple named this. Mary, May 13th. Okay. And then I'm going to select residential. Now the scope on the right-hand side, it's always going to be personal. You can't change it, which just means it's going to be only visible to you. It's not going to be visible to anyone else in your office or the company. I suggest we never auto-apply the template. We always want to choose to apply the template. And then one more step to make creating this template easier is this select template options. So I'm going to click on my templates, and just like when I was using the purchase packet, I'm going to use the purchase packet to create my template. So that's kind of like grabbing that blue folder off the wall, dumping half the documents, right, that we typically do, and then taking the cover sheet and filling out my information in it, and then putting it away in my drawer for later. So I'm going to use this packet to create my own template. Stacy's purchase packet, residential, do not auto apply, and I want to use the global purchase packet Nebraska. Then I'm going to click save. Now it's going to look a little different than when you create transactions. Remember, this is a template. So the first thing I like to do when I create a template is I like to click this delete button. So I want to eliminate any documents out of here that I'm not going to use when I do a purchase, okay? For instance, when I click delete, it's going to give me these little buttons next to each document to remove some. I do not need Agency Buyer Nebraska team. I am not in a team, so I'm going to select to remove that one. maybe I don't need this transaction notes. That is just a blank form. I'm never going to use it, so I'm going to remove it. And one other thing I like to remove is this lead-based paint pamphlet, because I'm going to give that to my client in that actual pamphlet, and I don't want it in, I call this my working file. Maybe I don't want that in my working file, right? So I am going to select those 3 documents, scroll back up to the top, and in the top right corner, there's a big green delete button. And you could delete more than that or less than that. It's totally up to you. What do you typically get rid of when you grab that blue folder? Now, before this template's complete, I'm going to open up the cover sheet by single clicking on it. And then I'm going to fill out the information that never changes every time I work with a buyer. So listing broker information, property listing, seller mortgage, I don't know any of that. That is transaction specific. But if I come down here, this whole paragraph never changes regardless of who my buyer is, right? Bless you. I'm the agent every time I work with a buyer. What's something else that never changes when I work with a buyer? Do I 99% of the time charge the BC fee? Yes. So I'm going to add that and click yes. Now, what else? How about title and escrow information? If I at all have the ability as the buyer's agent to direct title to the same place, almost every time, I'm going to type in that person that I use now. And then if there's one specific transaction where you didn't get to direct title, you can always change it within that specific transaction. Better to change it in one than to type it into every single one, right? So I'm going to add that information. You can put their email address in there. Maybe you also always try to use the same termite company.
Hey,
You could
Stacy,
add that.
quick
Yep.
question while you're adding in your termite information.
Yep.
Is there any ability to change the size or type of the font?
Yes. Up in the top, you've got a toolbar here, and there's this full screen option. So if you're typing this and that felt really small, does this help? I don't know who asked that. Does this help you?
It was Rosemary who asked that, and she just asked if you could change the size of the font.
So you can't, like in the individual fields, change the size of the font, but while you're typing it, you can click that full screen mode to type to make it a little easier. It is really small. And then to return it back to normal, you'll just click the normal button, which is the second one next to save, and it'll go back here. But it is a lot easier to type if you click full screen. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to click back. One other thing I know that I type every time that I create a purchase is in this agency buyer Nebraska, that second page. How many times do I type in my broker's information? Jill or Dwan. You can type in their name and their phone number in that page so that it pulls in every time so you don't miss it or forget to type it in. Just think through the information that you type over and over and over. So let's say this template is done and ready to use. How do I use it? I'm going to click back to list. Then I'm going to click on transactions. So let's say we logged out of Zipforms. Now I have a new buyer. I'm logging into Zipforms to write a new purchase transaction, and I want to use that template that I had created. So I'm on the transactions tab. I'm going to click on the new button. I'm going to select purchase. And on this next screen where I am naming my file, whatever you would name it, the address and your buyer's name, whatever makes sense to you, residential, And then when I get down to where it says select a template, I now can select the one that I had created. You'll see I have a ton in here. I've created a bunch, but this is the one I created today. Stacy's purchase packet, May 13th. So if I click on that, and then when I click save, it's going to open up that transaction. And in the documents tab is going to be all of the documents that I had said are a part of my purchase template, and it will be pre-filled with the information that I had added just a bit ago. So here I am in that transaction file. You see the file name. I'm going to skip over to the documents tab. Let's say I open up that cover sheet. Look what's already in there. So I don't have to type that every time. And then just think, when you're doing a purchase, if you created a template and you use this template and you put in the MLS Connect MLS number and it pulled in all the property information, all you really have to do is type your purchase information, your purchase agreement, your amount, your purchase price, your buyer's names. You're not having to type in a ton of stuff. So much is pre-filled for you. Any questions on that? Templates?
Yes, I have one.
Sure.
All right, so you've done this, and now we take that and we fill out our new information and stuff. How do you save that without messing this up so that it's just like this when I need it for the next time?
So I'm in the individual transaction that I created using this template now. That template exists already saved in my template. So I can put anything in this transaction. I can put in my, my date. I can put in my purchase price. I can put in my buyer's name. I can fill out this whole transaction. And then when I click back to list, let's say I have a new buyer and I want to use that same template. I'm going to click new and I'll just select that template again. Because that template only changes if you make the change in the templates tab, not in the transactions.
Okay.
So here I can come down. I'm just going to put your name on it so that I can find it. There's the name of my file. It's residential. Then when I select from the templates, I'm going to use that same template. Save. It's going to open up that transaction file. And when I go over to documents and I open up that cover sheet, it's only going to have the information that I filled in the template. What I put in that individual transaction will not come into other transactions. The only time you see information pulling into every transaction is if you put transaction specific information in the template. So the template that I created, if I click on the templates screen, if I go into that template, if I accidentally filled this out like it was an actual transaction, like if I came into my template and added my purchase information here, then it would continue to pull into every file that I use that template on. Does that make sense?
It does. I see what I did wrong. Thank you.
Yes. What other questions? Nothing? All right, that is all I'm going over today for basics. I do want to encourage you, you'll see an email come out from me later this afternoon, which will have this class linked in it, but also I recorded the last advanced class, which talks even more about templates and more integrations like that MLS Connect. I do that again, and then there's a RPR connection and some more tips and tricks in that class. I'll link that in the same email. So if you feel ready for the next step, you can watch that class at your leisure. You got anything to add, Nikki?
Yeah, let me. Oh, okay. So Rosemary is asking me, she says, when you send it to Docusign, can I change the size of the typed font? What generally shows up is 9. I want it at 12.
So the actual font of the document information, the fields that you filled while in Zipforms?
That's
I can't
right.
see her. I'm assuming that's what she's asking. I
Yeah,
do
good.
not believe that you can do that.
Okay.
Let me open up. I'm going to just go into one. Let's just do a little troubleshoot.
Okay, perfect.
You guys just hang with me. And if you need to go, it's been an hour, please feel free. I will not be offended. I'm just going to see what we can do here. So for instance, if I open up the purchase agreement, if I go to like this other provisions,
Mhm.
like there's not a font changing. I do not believe that you can.
Okay.
I'm going to get into Docusign and we're going to look for a second too. The only thing that I know you can change is the size of the initials and signatures, but the fields that you filled out, like these that you filled out within Zipforms, you cannot alter. But for instance, the initial and signature tabs, you can make bigger by just pulling on the box size. Or if you are adding a text box in Docusign, let's say I'm adding a text box. I add my, here is my text. Here, if I do a text box, I can change the font in those other sections, but everything else that's filled out already in Zipforms is not changeable once you get to Docusign. If you're using the Docusign features, you can change the text size in the text box, and you can pull these initials, signatures, date boxes to be bigger as well. But that is all I know for changing sizes.
Okay. So you can go to that formatting piece in Docusign, change that when you're adding a text box, and that's about the only way that you can change that.
Yep. Here you can, that one did default to a 9, but I could change it. I know she said 12. I changed that one to a 12 for
Okay.
any text box that I add once in the Docusign screen.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? All right. That is all I have for you.